Pessoal, não vamos esquecer de acionar o sino.
Olá, combatentes do canal Arte da Guerra. O Dr. Ori Goldberg é especializado em revoluções xiitas e eu considero ele um dos melhores analistas do Oriente Médio. Está sempre falando na Al Jazeera e em diversas outras mídias aí, mundo afora. E graças ao contato do Edilson Pinto, do Plano Brasil, nós conseguimos entrevistar o Ori, tá? A entrevista foi em inglês, mas com legendas em português aqui embaixo. Então, quero agradecer, em primeiro lugar, né, a presteza do Dr. Ori em nos atender. Tá? Ele foi muito sincero sobre o que está acontecendo em Israel. E também o Edilson Pinto, que é um parceiro aqui do canal, tá sempre trazendo excelentes produções. Eu recomendo que vocês sigam aí o Plano Brasil, tanto em mídia escrita, né, como no YouTube. Vamos ver a entrevista do Dr. Ori Goldberg hoje, dia 7, né, que nós estamos entrando no 14º mês da Guerra de Israel.
So, first of all, thank you for accepting this interview. It's a pleasure for us, and since a long time, our friends ask us to interview you about this conflict in Middle Orient. And we have some questions to try to ask you if you can help us to understand better this actual conflict.
It would be my pleasure. Ask away.
Ori, in this week, we're going to initiate the 13th month of this, the 14th month of this war. 14 months of war. What do you believe that is happening? Do you believe Netanyahu has strategic objectives that Israel cannot reach?
No, I don't believe Netanyahu has any strategic objectives. I think Israel went into this war without strategic objectives. I think after several months of revenge, various factions within Israeli politics and Israeli society wanted to apply their specific objectives, but I think Israel as a country doesn't have strategic objectives. I think this war has gone on for so long that we have become addicted to killing. And that is the only thing we know now, and the only way we have to measure success. And the people who want to kill the most are the people who least support any kind of diplomatic solution. So there is a self-perpetuating circle. The more we kill, the more we kill. The more we kill, the less chance we give to any kind of solution that isn't killing. We are junkies.
Thank you. Edilson, quer fazer a próxima?
I have one question about this, the conflict that starts in Gaza. It is going to Lebanon, the South Lebanon, and it's very difficult for us in Brazil to understand how the Israeli community looks this situation. What is the reaction of the society, the Israel society, in this conflict?
That's a good question. I think that's probably the most difficult question to answer, but it's the thing that is most on my mind, so I will try. For a very long time, for decades, Israel thought it had established a very effective mechanism for ensuring Jewish supremacy. Okay? We thought that we understood how to keep the Palestinians in their place, how to prevent any kind of political initiative on the part of Palestinians. We thought that the occupation of Palestinian territories worked And that the Palestinians knew that as long as they kept out of our sight, they would be okay. Now, we progressed towards that when we signed the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords, what was supposed to come after them, which was normalization, the peace with Saudi Arabia, was supposed to make everybody forget about the Palestinians. And once everybody forgot about the Palestinians, then our superiority, our supremacy would be guaranteed. And then October 7th, 2023 happened, and nobody forgot about the Palestinians. So we understood that our supremacy had been broken, had been shattered. And we switched phases. We were not about supremacy anymore. Now we were about being alone, being the only real people in this region. And anybody who disputed that, anybody who objected to that, needed to die. So Israeli society doesn't like living for more than a year in a war. The situation in Israel is very bad. Prices are rising, jobs are disappearing, the health system and the education system are suffering. The situation is very bad. But most Israeli Jews don't think we have a choice. Most Israeli Jews think that if we don't make everybody around us understand that we can do whatever we want, whenever we want, to whomever we want. If they don't understand that and accept that, they will kill us, just like the Palestinians killed us on October 7th. So Israeli society is not happy. But Israeli society doesn't see any other alternative. The right thing is not a happy thing, but it's still the right thing. That's what most Israelis see. So that's how Israelis are putting up with the north of Israel being completely burned, the area around Gaza being also completely devastated, the economy being devastated. What we, as a collective, believe is that if they, the enemy, don't understand that we have the right to do whatever we want, that no rules apply to us, then they will kill us. So we have to make sure they understand.
Perfect.
Vou fazer a próxima, tá?
Okay.
Ori, do you believe the Israeli society will accept the solution of two states? Is there a consensus about this?
No, there's absolutely. If there's a consensus, it's that we won't accept the solution of two states. Because who are we going to negotiate with? They wanted to kill us all. I think right now, Israeli society is in no position to accept or reject anything. The Israeli society isn't hearing anyone, isn't acknowledging any agenda but its own. This isn't the time for political solutions. The first thing that has to happen is that we have to stop killing, or we have to be stopped. And after that happens, we need a long time where nothing else happens. Where food comes into Gaza, where the people who live in Gaza are allowed to rebuild at least some of their homes, where Israel doesn't do anything lethal to anyone. That has to last at least, 6 months to a year. Until that happens, Israel is in absolutely no position to negotiate. I don't know if you're following the news, but we are having a very crazy evening as we speak. Okay, our Prime Minister fired his defense minister.
Yes, we know this.
And it seems like Netanyahu just doesn't care anymore. The only thing he wants is to make sure that he's in power, not just because he's corrupt, but because he really believes that he has to be in power for Israel to be safe. All he cares about is keeping his government and coalition alive. He doesn't even care about the Americans. In Israel, the defense minister is usually the one who is closest to the Americans, because the Israeli military and the American military worked very, very closely together. So the defense minister is how the Americans pass messages to the prime minister. When he fired Defense Minister Gallant, he basically, and you'll forgive my language, but he basically told the Americans they can go fuck themselves. Which means that Israel has no allies anymore. You know, a lot of leaders supported Israel mostly because that's the vibe they got from the Biden administration. But doing this now, and specifically on the night of the election, is basically saying to the Americans, I don't care anymore, you know. I don't need you, I don't care. I'm going to do what I want. And that's where we go. So absolutely no two states, absolutely no negotiated solution. Israel is, I want to say Israel is crazy, but it's not crazy. But Israel is not listening. Israel can't hear anything but what it is saying.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, regarding about the Abraham Accords, they are sometimes presented as a temporary resolution. Do these accords have internal support in Israel government, in the Israel society?
But there's some support. We can now fly through Dubai, which is very useful. And we can go on vacations in the Emirates, but that's basically it. There's support because it was presented as you say, temporary resolution is the beginning of peace. But the truth is that the Abraham Accords were signed for one reason only, and that was to try and make sure that the world forgets about the Palestinians. The Abraham Accords were supposed to ensure that if Saudi Arabia became friends with Israel and didn't demand an end to the occupation and an independent Palestinian state, that meant that the Arabs didn't care about the Palestinians. And that meant that the world didn't see a reason to care about the Palestinians. That was Netanyahu's plan. He got Trump to agree to it because Trump believes in deals where everybody gets something. But this isn't peace, and it isn't a resolution, and it wasn't even negotiated. It was all about the potential opportunities to make money. There's no normalization with Saudi Arabia, so the Abraham Accords are very insulated and very specific, and sure, the Israeli public is not against them, but it doesn't expect anything.
Ori, we know the situation of north of Israel. A lot of people has to flee to south and is living in hotels and so because of the bombs and rockets of the Hezbollah. But what is the real situation of diaspora? It's true that a lot of Jews is fleeing Israel to the States, America, Australia, Europe, and so on. What is the situation? That press doesn't speak this in the West. We don't know.
The number of Jews who are leaving Israel jumped about several 100% this year. Yes, a lot of people are leaving. A lot of people are immigrating. It's true. People are not escaping yet, but I am, middle class. I'm an academic. My father was a doctor. People like me, everybody knows somebody who has moved. Right? So I can't say people are escaping Israel. But, the option of leaving is much more accessible. Israelis like me are talking about it much more frequently, and it's also happening in much, much larger numbers than it happened before. Yes, there's certainly a large group of Israelis who have lost faith in the state, in state institutions, and in the possibility of having a stable future.
Thank you.
So, given the difficulties arising from attacks on multiple fronts, from Yemen, from Lebanon, from Iran. The loss of international political prestige and the evidence that military power of Israel is not resolving the situation. In your opinion, what remains for Netanyahu to solve these problems?
There is no solving these problems, certainly not with military troops in any of these fronts. Certainly not in Gaza, where the Israeli military has already taken and retaken certain areas of Gaza 5 or 6 times. And in the parts that it has taken, it is committing very grave war crimes and eradicating the civilian population, forcing evacuations, and killing an unprecedented, unbelievable number of civilians. But also destroying physical space. So certainly there's no attempt at resolving the Gaza issue. As far as Lebanon goes, nobody knows what the main point is. I mean, the entire operation had several motives and several rationales. One was to get rid of Hezbollah's leadership. This had been planned for 15 or 20 years. And the other was to make the border safe so people from the Israeli north could come home. But that has not been done. I mean, Hezbollah fires dozens of rockets into Israel every day. Israel boasts of having reduced Hezbollah's rockets and missile stocks to about 20% of what they were last year. But even if that's true, Hezbollah can continue to fire dozens of rockets into Israel on a daily basis, thereby ensuring that the north would be uninhabitable. So I don't think anybody's trying to resolve anything. I think Netanyahu understands that his political viability is directly connected to the war continuing, and he also understands that the majority of the Israeli public, even if they are reluctant to admit it, they support this forevermore. Right? That's a really important thing to understand, because even now, nobody's calling for an end to the war. At most, they're calling for a hostage deal. But after the hostage deal, we need to fight again. And we will fight again. And Netanyahu is apparently a very corrupt and problematic individual. He's also a very smart politician. He understands that even if people don't like him personally, they don't see any kind of alternative to the war that he is offering. No Jewish politician in Israel has stood up and said, we need to end this war. We need to work on securing a negotiated solution. Not a single Jewish politician. So I think a lot of people are doing the math and they're saying, if nobody is offering, everybody is ultimately an imitation of Netanyahu, why not vote for the original?
Why? We know that Iran, there are news about Iran planning a new attack post the elections or before the new president assumes in the United States. But the question is, do you think the defense of Israel can support a new attack of Iran? The air defense are able to support a new attack if Iran goes with full force. And
yeah, I don't
think that. And do you think the people in Israel know the real situation of the air defenses?
Oh, the second question is very easy to answer. No. The people don't know the real situation. We don't know anything about anything. We don't know what the situation is in Lebanon. We don't know what the situation is in Gaza. And we don't know what the air defense situation is. Now, in response to your first question, I don't think Iran wants to use its full force. I don't think Iran has anything to gain from firing several thousand missiles and attacking Israeli civilian targets. I think Iran is very happy and very content with these very simple strikes. I think as Iran does that, it also gets legitimacy. It is also seen as responsible, not as crazy or as radical or as fanatic as a responsible enemy, because Iran takes great care not to hit civilian targets in Israel. And also another thing you need to remember is that in terms of military options, military force for an attack, Israel has many, many, many more options than Iran does, including several hundred nuclear weapons deliverable on a broad variety of platforms. Okay? So the fact that Iran and Israel are now seen as equals, that's a very dramatic thing. Right? The fact that the world talks to Iran and talks to Israel, the fact that the world does not suggest that Iranian attacks on Israel are illegitimate, that is a very big deal. Israel invested a lot of time, a lot of effort in trying to persuade the world that wherever Israel is good, Iran is bad. But now, Israel is bad. Yeah. So that kind of makes Iran look good. And the more Israel pursues this course of action, the more Israel perpetuates these attacks, Iran, the world doesn't like Iran. But the world doesn't need to like it. The world needs to think that it can do business with it. And it can. I think the world is discovering that. I think Israelis, you asked if Israelis know the state of our air defense. Israelis are not aware, I think, of how Israel's international status has changed. Israelis still think that this will be over at some point, and we will sign some sort of agreement, and everything will go back to normal. Israelis don't understand the level of animosity and hostility and hatred towards Israel in the world. They don't understand how support for Israel has become a political liability. Who knows? Maybe it will cost Kamala Harris the election, but I don't think so. So Israelis don't understand that, but they will. They will, because that's the way it is now. And Israel did all of this, and Iran is one of the main parties to gain from this, because again, the worse Israel looks, the better Iran looks. That's almost physics.
Let's say that Israel's economic situation is heading toward collapse. This situation is critical at the moment, and it has been stated that Israel is willing to endure as much as possible. In your opinion, what would time limit be this?
Oh, we are very close to the expiration date. Look, Israelis have been fighting, have been in the military for 250 days, 300 days, a year. Businesses are collapsing. Families are collapsing. The number of wounded soldiers, the number of mentally compromised soldiers, the number of people who are suffering from traumatic stress disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, is higher than anything we've ever known. We've never fought a war not like this. And the Israeli economy is really at the very, very final stages of holding on. The total collapse is imminent. And our government is also diverting funds for its own survival, so there are even less funds. And the situation really is intolerable. In every way you can imagine, from from traffic, which is completely insane because roads are not being built, and our light railway project is not being promoted. Schools being shut down almost at random every day because of rocket attacks or because of parents who are afraid. To a health system that is finding it very difficult to deal with the number of wounded. The situation, and also, it's not just that. Israel is under continuous. All of Israel, all of it, is potentially under fire from someone. The south from Yemen and Iraq, the north from Lebanon, the entire country from Iran. There are drones. A drone, the first drone to actually penetrate and hit the Israeli heartland, hit 6 houses from where I live, from where I'm talking to you right now. And I live in a suburb of Tel Aviv, in the very comfortable, wealthy, supposedly safe center of Israel. No place is safe. And that drives you crazy. You can think that you're normal, but you're not normal. It drives you insane. There are rockets every day. There are rumors of an imminent Iranian strike. There are Iranian spy networks exposed every day. It's insane. We have normalized insanity. This is not sustainable. I'm not even talking about the hostages, which is a tremendous shame, disgrace for Israel, who is killing the hostages by continuing to genocide in Gaza. So the situation here, I am going to be 49 in 2 weeks. And I've lived here all my life. I don't remember anything remotely this way. Israel is imploding. So not a lot of time. We can't take this from top.
Ori, and what's the economic situation in Israel? Because here in Brazil, and I believe in States too, all Americans, the press doesn't inform us about the real economic situation. They send notices only about the battlefield. But what's the really economic situation? How are the Israeli living?
The economic situation is really, really, really bad. Prices rise almost every day. The deficit is very high. Rental costs are constantly rising. Jobs and businesses are closing because people can't operate them because they are fighting. Investments are completely escaping the country. I'll give you one more measure, which is very heavy on the Israeli mind, and that is flights. Flights to Israel and flights from Israel. All the major airlines have canceled their flights to Israel until 2025 at least. It's very difficult to fly out of here, and thousands and thousands of Israelis get stuck abroad when airlines cancel the flights because of a recent rocket attack. So it's very difficult to get into Israel. It's very difficult to get out of Israel. So the situation is really, really, really bad. Not just economic, but generally civilian life is in a very bad way. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of violent crime. The police is generally considered to have been politicized and taken over by the Netanyahu government. People are not safe. People have very little faith in the national institutions. So generally, life here is as hard and as fragile as it has ever been.
The Israel people have always been resilient, standing strong against conflicts since the founding of the Israel states, and maintaining cohesion. We have seen in the development of this country that the military force seemed unprepared and unable to respond to the threat. Does this reflect a new generation experiencing history without the resilience of the best? Can we believe that the people in Israel will resist as they did before? Have you any indication of this?
Wow, what a final question. It's a very good question. Let me compliment both of you. You asked a series of very, very good, relevant questions. And I think you know Israel very well. These really are the questions that need to be asked. On the one hand, I'm going to give you an ambivalent answer. On the one hand, there is resilience. This resilience has been transformed. It's not a positive resilience, negative resilience. You know, we will kill them before they have a chance to kill us. And we will stay strong because if we don't, they'll kill us. So we'll stay strong so we can kill them. That's basically Israeli resilience at the moment. What was once, as you say, infused with a positive spirit is no longer positive. We believe we are doing what we have to do, but we also have no illusions that anybody else thinks so as well, or sees us as some kind of model for virtue. Okay? And on the other hand, resilience is as low as I've seen it. There is a general sense of mistrust. Nobody seems trustworthy. Nobody seems like they have the best interest of the nation at heart. Israelis are in great despair about their politicians. But Israelis are also very passive. Israelis don't want to know what is actually happening. Israelis are not interested in any kind of critical thoughts. They're not interested in models for a future. The most they can do is survive the present. And that is not resilience. Resilience requires some kind of vision for the future. Israel at the moment does not have a vision for the future. It's very easy to say Israelis want to kill all the Palestinians. I don't think that's true. I don't think most Israelis mind that the Palestinians. I don't think that's planned. I don't think there is a plan. I think Israel doesn't have a plan. When you don't have a plan, when you don't know where you want to go, then you lose all sense of proportion. You lose appreciation for the good. You lose the ability to tell the difference between what's good and what's bad. And that, I think, is probably the best way to describe Israel. We don't know the difference anymore. So, on the one hand, a grim kind of resilience, we will survive. We will kill them before they kill us, but completely devoid of any kind of positivity, any sense of a future, any sense of a solution or a resolution. We're not interested in resolutions. We are alone, and we have to take care of ourselves, and we will do what it needs.
Thank you, Ori. When you come to Brazil, the dinner is fine. You know Brazil?
I would know. I know Brazil by reading about it. I've never been. I would love to come to visit. I would love to come to visit. And it's one of the places I really, really want to go. And I want to tell you something else. We have a lot of immigrants in this country, so their Hebrew is spoken in a lot of accents. But the loveliest accent by far for Hebrew is a Brazilian accent. When people who came from Brazil speak Hebrew, it sounds like a completely different language. I love talking to people from Brazil when they speak Hebrew. Love it. So, whenever, the first chance I have to come, I'm slow.
Oh, here in Brazil, we see all the situation as a tragedy. Because we have a lot of immigrants from Israel, from Libya, from Palestine, from Syria, Iraq, a lot of countries. All people live here in Brazil. You have a shop. You have a shop in Brazil, that's for a Jew. And by side, he's a Lebanese. a joke. It's a very tragedy. What is happening in Israel? In Brazil, we are very sad about this.
It's a tremendous tragedy, and it's a lesson for humanity. Because a lot of people would like to think that this is because Zionism is particularly evil, or Jews are particularly evil, or whatever. That's not the case. What is happening to Israel is the worst of humanity. That's why it's a tragedy. And the world needs to learn from this, just like the world learned from what happened to Germany in World War II. Israel, for a very, very long time, ever since it began to exist, it practiced dehumanization. It wanted to establish that it was more important than anybody else. That it meant more. And after almost 80 years of that, when suddenly there was a war that was perceived as existential, Israelis who had grown up on the horrors of genocide found themselves doing it very easily. That's a human lesson that needs to be learned by the entire world. So it's a great tragedy, and you're absolutely right, and it's heartbreaking. But I am very fortunate that I have a chance to speak with you and with other people who want to hear about it and want to understand what's actually happening. Most Israelis don't know and don't care. So it was a real pleasure for me to talk to you. And please feel free to talk to me again if you need to. It's very important for me to do this, other than the treat of meeting you and getting a chance to talk. So whenever you want to talk again, just write me.
Ori, for us, we're very happy to talk to you. We so regret about this situation, but it's a very pleasure to talk to you. Edilson will make the farewell, but it's not a goodbye. I hope to see you again in a few days. Edilson, please.
So, Ori, first of all, I have to tell you that for me, it was the most important interview that I made in Guano, Brazil. And I would like to tell you that please to know that it's an honor for me to interview you. I'm your friend. And after this conversation, my admiration has only grown further. And I would like to invite you for many others to talk with specific themes if you want. It will be very good. For us in Brazil, it's very good to show new lights about what is happening in Israel in this moment. Because as Tornando-se talked about, it's very difficult for us to have opinion in first person. And this was a verified opinion about what is happening at this time. So for me, thank you very much again, and I would expect to see you in next interviews.
That would be. Thank you for all the kind words. It was a pleasure, and I think it's very important. And please, by all means, feel free to give my details to anybody who wants to talk, who wants to hear. It is one of the very few things that I can do in this tragedy is talk. So I'm appointing you my agents in Brazil. Anybody who wants to talk to me, I would be very happy to talk to you. Okay? And I hope to see you again very soon.
Ori, I'll say to you a few words that Frank Sinatra said when he sings in Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.
Goodbye, Commandant. Goodbye, dear son. I hope to see you soon.
Goodbye, Ori.
Bye-bye.
Na lista de desejos da Amazon, você encontra um enorme sortimento de livros sobre o Oriente Médio, abordados sobre as mais diversas disciplinas, né? Desde a política, a geografia, passando pelas artes, as ciências e a história. Tem para todos os gostos e todos os formatos. Eu lembro que a Amazon aceita cartão de crédito, ela parcela, aceita boleto também, e tem um sistema de entregas bastante rápido e confiável. E é também preciso ser lembrado que todas as vezes que vocês compram livros e outros itens na Amazon, vocês estão ajudando o canal Arte da Guerra. Entrando pela lista de desejos, né, que se encontra aqui na descrição, vocês já estão ajudando o canal Arte da Guerra.